With Scream 7 very likely dead, Spyglass will be forced to make some tough decisions in how they proceed with the franchise. Regardless, without the return of the Carpenter sisters or Sidney Prescott, we are faced with a possible reboot of Scream. If Spyglass decides to wait in an attempt to repair relationships, the franchise will likely not be able to fully rebound with another 10-year gap between films, meaning that there are a lot of established sub-characters and sub-stories that we will potentially never see a conclusion to. We will begin diving into some of those unanswered questions in this video and in future ones. If there are any topics in this list that you want to see us dive into further in a popcorn theory like our number 5, be sure to let us know in the comments. Until then, here are 5 unanswered questions about the Cult of Ghostface that we may never, or hopefully, will get the answers to. Danny Brackett. Surely we all hoped that Sam would find love again in the Scream universe, just like Sidney did, but just maybe not with her neighbor Danny. Many fans have come to question his motives in the film due to some of the actions he took that just don't seem to add up. Couple that with the attack on Gail in her apartment, where her boyfriend was not only overpowered by one of the killers, his dead body was thrown through a bookshelf. With Detective Bailey and Ethan having motives at the time of his death, there was no way that Quinn could have been able to display those feats of strength. Danny, being an accomplice and a cult member planted to keep tabs on Sam, would make sense, especially when you consider that when Quinn was being murdered, instead of running to the Core 4's rescue or calling the police, he provided a distraction by extending a ladder from his apartment to theirs, allowing Quinn to stage the crime scene while Bailey chased after the others. If you are familiar with the behind the scenes of Scream storytelling, many of Kevin Williamson's scrapped ideas in the original trilogy were eventually used in the follow-up films. One not yet used was the killers in Scream 2, being Sidney's boyfriend, Derek, and her roommate, Hallie. Maybe, just maybe, Danny might have been Quinn's boyfriend. There are several other clues surrounding Danny's involvement in the killings, and if you want a deep dive theory on it, sound off in the comments.
I got here as fast as I could.
Did you?
The Shrine. In what might be one of the most memorable scenes in Scream 6, the Shrine comes with either many plot holes in how it was established, or many of those unanswered questions were to be resolved in 7. Such as, how did Gail know about it and not Kirby? How long was Detective Bailey aware of Jason and Greg in order to have a leash drawn up in their names? How was all of the police evidence collected without raising any flags? And why is it in New York? When you begin to break down the hows and the whys, things don't add up. Only a year separates Scream 5 and 6. Detective Bailey, as we learned, transferred to New York after Richie's death, and when he was alive, he lived in California. Speaking as a horror collector, my personal shrine is in my home, and while I would not expect a collector to house his collection of murder trophies, having it located across the country doesn't make sense, especially when you factor in that the collection is not complete, as it's missing several trophies from other victims like Sarah Darling, Angelina, Robbie, just to name a few. So, I would imagine that when a new trophy was acquired, there wasn't a road trip to New York to add it, unless the shrine was being built by more than just 2 of them. Maybe a group of fanatics? Maybe a cult? Who knows? Kirby Reed. Typically, the FBI will get involved in a serial murder if they are contacted by local police. This is not only because the killer may be committing interstate offenses, but because the police departments lack the personnel who are skilled enough to solve the serial offenses. Detective Bailey's involvement would suggest that they would not be making a phone call to the FBI. And later on, with the one officer entering the room and advising that someone was there to see him, it would lead me to believe that Kirby just showed up without being contacted. How would this be possible unless she knew in advance what was going to take place? Not with Richie's family, but with...
Your two Vics were residents of my city before they moved here for college. I've been investigating their online activity for the past few months.
If she was tracking them for the FBI, how would the shrine go undetected, as Gail pointed out? Now, typically, when an agent goes into the field, it's with a partner. So when Detective Bailey reveals that Kirby was let go from the agency...
Hello?
Get everyone out of there, Sam. You're not safe. I heard from the Atlanta field office. They said Agent Reed's been on a downward spiral ever since the Woodsboro murders last year.
What are you talking about?
They fired Kirby 2 months ago for being mentally unstable.
She very well may have been. If you factor in the cult is comprised of stab fanatics, well, guess what? Kirby was one herself. Kirby's true motives and involvement in the latest Ghostface murders may never be known. The Cult of Ghostface. Hints of the cult began with Scream 2 when Mickey and Mrs. Loomis revealed that they found each other online.
We're in this together?
Yeah, well, had to have financing. Tuition's expensive. Deb there, my backer. We met on the internet, psycho website, classifieds.
The online forum came up again in Scream 5.
I met Richie on the Stab subreddit. I've been obsessed ever since my parents bought this house. We realized pretty quickly we had similar ideas.
Putting Kevin Williamson's original plans aside for the cult in Scream 3, our confirmation of the cult existing comes in Scream 6, with Jason revealing his intentions with Greg to finish Richie's movie, and Kirby revealing that she works for the FBI tracking Ghostface attacks. This leaves a lot of unanswered questions around not only who is leading the cult, but also its size, and are there any established characters in the Scream universe secretly a part of it? And how long has it been operating for? I tend to believe that the shrine was not being solely built by Bailey and his family, but the entire cult, which may explain its location and why the lease was under Jason and Greg's names. Sure, Bailey laid claim to having built it, but in real life, serial killers and criminals lay claims to other crimes that they have not committed. So anytime I hear a killer boasting about what they've done in this franchise, I take it with a grain of salt. One thing to consider with the cult is that it may not even be led by a single person. They could operate in a similar fashion to Anonymous, where there is no head to the snake, but instead,
we are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Stu Mocker. Now, before some of you non-Stu believers click off this video because we have arrived at Stu once again, the answer to this question goes both ways. Before I dive in, if you are new to the channel and you're wondering how he could have survived, check out some of our previous videos breaking down how Stu could have survived and all of the clues pointing to that survival in every film that followed. Now, no matter which side of the conversation you stand on, one thing is for certain. It has never been clearly stated in any of the films that Stu is alive or dead. We've only been fed contradictions. Sure, Stu was marked dead on Kirby's crime board in the last film, but Mindy later refuted him being dead. Let's not forget that there was a Stu Alive conspiracy YouTube video on Richie's laptop in part 5, and earlier in that film, Dewey referred to Stu in the present tense when talking about him.
Oh my god.
He's Billy Loomis's accomplice, a real Looney Tune.
Okay.
The biggest question that has existed for nearly 30 years may forever be unanswered if Spyglass is unable to fix the mess that they have created or sell the rights in the next few years, because I do not see Nev Campbell or Matthew Lillard returning in another 10 years in their 60s to finish this story. Do you agree with this list of unanswered questions about the cult, or do you have your own? Let us know by dropping it in the comments. And also, don't forget to like this video, it truly does wonders for us, and if you're not subscribed, please do that. As always, thank you, and we appreciate you tuning in to watch our videos, and until the next one, see you.